I am Alix Woznick. I am the middle school librarian at Beverly Middle School. And on the board, I am involved in professional development, which is mainly about the conference and the annual conference. And especially with COVID, it's been about transitioning from an in-person conference to a virtual conference.
Okay. And how did you get involved with the board?
Barb Fecto made me.
I knew you were going to say, at least you didn't use the word bullied, so that's good. Um,
No, I mean I've been going to the conference for a number of years and always really liked it and knew a little bit some of the people who were involved in the board. But I think what had always kind of stopped me before is that I think sometimes we get things about these meetings and they're like in Marlboro or someplace, and I'm like, I'm not driving to Marlboro at 4 p.m. Like, that's not happening. And I think then they started moving to doing more things virtually, and then you kind of Barb kind of drafted me into the conference committee with and doing it with Alita, and Alita was somebody I'd always kind of hit it off with and had known for a little while. So but then when we were planning to do the conference last year, I was nowhere near as involved. I feel like there weren't so many meetings, and some of them were in person and some of them were virtual. And then once we went into shutdown and we had to meet virtually, we started meeting more often, and I've actually really enjoyed that. And so I feel like post COVID, one of the big opportunities, I think, for people in a sense is going to be that the meetings are probably going to be a large majority, especially kind of more operationally things, are going to be virtual. And that means that in a sense it opens it up to more different people who live in more different parts of the state or who have different work schedules and stuff like that. Like, my work schedule is in my schools and we're in session until 3, and then a lot of the board meetings end up being about the same day as my staff meeting. So like, it was just always really hard to try to figure out a way to make that work. And now with things being virtual, it's much easier. So I think that people should hopefully take that as an opportunity. And I'm sure the board will too, in terms of being able to get more people involved, because there's more ways to do it when you don't have to get people to drive to a location that might be super inconvenient for them at a time that's also inconvenient. So I think the best thing is we meet every week. The worst thing is, no, it's not really the worst thing that we meet every week. So we ended up deciding a while back that we would meet every week because there was so much to figure out with this whole virtual thing. And also I think we realized, like, it's easier to chip away at stuff. And if somebody misses a meeting, it's not a tragedy if you miss one when you're meeting every week. Whereas when you're meeting once a month, if you miss a meeting, that's a bigger deal. So, and I think that at first it seems like, oh my God, we're meeting every week, but then it's easier to remember and you just get into the flow and you get to know people more. Because really, I think, coming back to some other things we've talked about, I mean, really, the best part is that you do get to meet some other people who are doing what you do. And most of us work in settings where there's either no other people that do what you do in your building, or there are very few. And so being able to make connections with other people who either understand the challenges you have or might have some other great ideas or things like that is great. The other thing I would say is I've realized that as we've been planning the conference, like, there's so many details, but it's kind of a dream working with a bunch of librarians on something like this, because we're all detail-oriented people. There is nobody who's not detail-oriented, who, like, it's just a field that you pretty much only get people. You don't get people who are only into the big picture. Now, that means sometimes we can get a little lost in the weeds, like, I'll grant you that. But in terms of like working with people, like, everybody sees a detail and understands it and is willing to go down the rabbit hole with that detailed little piece of something. And, jobs kind of just get doled out because people just sort of raise their hand for things. So I think that, people, as I think when we were talking earlier and Carrie was alluding to, if people want to do a lot, they can jump in and do a lot. But if people just want to raise their hand and do a little and just come and hang out for the meeting and do a couple of things and come up with some good ideas, that's great too. And you can kind of feel your way through how much you want to do. I mean, I do have to say, I think at the very outset, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm totally confused. So you just have to kind of jump in and start going to the meetings. And I think that actually became easier as we started meeting more frequently and just meeting online. I felt more, it was easier for me to feel like I was in the loop and I knew who people were, and it was clear for me to figure out some things where I could add some value. The hard thing sometimes is that there are so many like smart, hardworking people that sometimes, you know, you feel a little bit like I'm not worthy. Like these people all have some great ideas, and they also, people who've been in the board for a little bit longer maybe kind of know the flow of certain things that were mysterious to me, or just figuring out sometimes like, wait, where is this? There's this file that I'm supposed to know where it is on some shared drive. Where is it? Like sometimes I felt a little out of the loop to trying to figure some of that stuff out, but that's just a normal, that's not any, you know, cap on the board or how things run. That's just, you know, you have to be willing to just ask questions, say, excuse me, I have no idea what you're talking about here. And somebody will tell you.